It's a specific section for specific purpose.
Has it been argued? I mean, because there is no other definition in the Act,
Yeah.
and all cooperative banks are also companies at the end of the day. Can you say that in pari materia it will apply? Has it been argued in any matter?
It has not been argued.
This is a good case for arguing that, because first you go to the Act itself, then to other statutes, and then to the lexicon.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the hierarchy
Yeah,
of.
yeah. That is the precise reason why we have also tried to put definition in the same order. And I'll walk you through some more definitions on this. See, what is happening is, why this has not been argued still now is this definition has been amended by Finance Act 2012 with retrospective effect from Finance 2002. Retrospective, we are very good at it. We make retrospective amendments every now and then. So the challenge is these cases will now come up for adjudication by TP authorities, and then probably you'll have all these disputes coming up. But so far, there have been some cases, some judgments where this has been not argued in as much depth. There has been a discussion. So having said that, we try to come across some of the definitions which have been given by various other bodies. Let's go to the definition which has been given by Taxman's Dictionary for CA and CS, very relevant for us. If you guys take a minute to just read this definition, because I don't want to read it, just take a minute to read this out. It's on slide 37. Anyway, it's displayed out.
Also corporate.
So now, if you read this definition very, very carefully and go back to the discussion that or the comments that I made a few minutes back, nowhere in this definition they are saying that they are not at all talking about tax. They are talking about the fact is that corporates, so this definition actually gives credence to the fact that corporates increasingly are requiring to re-engineer themselves, to remodel themselves, because a traditional model which was working in 1950s will not work in 2012. Today we are in a world of digital economy. 1950s where the conventional traditional models, they don't work anymore now. So that's why all businesses need to develop themselves, re-engineer their processes, redevelop their systems. That is what this definition is trying to say. So it is not tax. It is the economic reasons and the commercial reasons which they are talking about. If I move to the Blacklaw's Dictionary, which is slightly broader than the definition that we saw as per the Taxman. This definition is talking to say that yes, it is talking about business amalgamations, readjustments, mergers, etc., etc. So this definition is more giving it a tax flavor rather than the other definition. But if you read the theme very carefully, they are saying the same thing. It's again linked with your commercial and economic reasons. Let's move to this, what OECD definition is saying. I'll just come back to this slide. But what is OECD saying? OECD, if you read chapter 9 of OECD, it says there is no universally accepted definition of business restructuring. There is no universally accepted definition. And OECD has tried to gather some definition for itself for the purpose of this OECD TP regulations, and it has said business restructuring is defined as cross-border redevelopment or redevelopment of by a multinational enterprise of functions, assets or risks, which is what you must have heard in the earlier session. So OECD's definition, if I see all of these definitions, is the most narrower, except 44 dB, which was even narrower. But if you see this definition, it's more narrower. But whenever you are trying to assess that what is a business restructuring, you will have to go back to these definitions. Because and the reason why you need to do that is here. If you see the second point, with effect from Finance Act 2012, business restructuring has been included as an international transaction. So for you to report, or first of all, so you know there is a disclosure requirement which has been prescribed. Whenever you are preparing your 3CV, the business restructuring and business reorganization transactions have to be reported in Form 3CV. You cannot report it unless you discover it. And how do you discover it? Go back to these definitions. That is the relevance of all this, the things that I have been discussing. Because unless you know what is that business restructuring, what will you report? How will you identify? So, going back to my earlier example, can a shifting of chairman be considered as business restructuring? The answer is no. Answer is no. Because these are the definitions which are available. Now, taxman can take a different view. We cannot stop him, but whatever best is available with us, these are the things which are available with us. So, any questions, any thoughts?
Making subsidies in another country is a business restructuring.
No.
Let's say for a manufacturing of raw material which you are acquiring. Yeah. So earlier you used to acquire it, but now we are manufacturing in that particular country. Okay. So is a business restructuring?
No.
Because there would be a future benefit would be available.
Correct. No. Answer is no. I think has everyone heard that question? I'll just repeat it. He's saying that forming a subsidiary in let's say country A to manufacture some products, does that amount to business restructuring? Because earlier I was procuring some those materials from some third party. Answer is no. Because if you look at the definitions very closely, what it is saying is
It was business re-engineering.
So let me just comment upon that. What is happening is typically what we will call as restructuring is earlier this is a business rechange that you are doing, not a restructuring. Restructuring will be you are let's say manufacturing in Japan and you may move that manufacturing base to India. That's a restructuring. That's a restructuring. But you are procuring vendor goods from some third parties and then you started making it in-house by forming a subsidiary, setting up a plant or increasing the plant capacity. That does not amount to business restructuring. Because if you read all the definitions put together, go to OECDs, the tax plans, all of them. If you read all of them together, the theme which is coming out is there has to be some fundamental change within your organization. It's not that you are excluding out a third party vendor and doing something in-house. That's not a restructuring. That
Because of you are increasing your profit in consolidation.
doesn't matter. So nowhere, okay. Nowhere.
So if you read the definition of this, they say.
Can I just go back?
Yeah.
Which definition?
No, the earlier the section 92B. It says
Slide?
just which were on definition that.
Slide 9. Yeah.
See that business restructuring or reorganization.
Correct.
Okay, which says irrespective of the fact that it bearing on the profit, income, losses, asset of such enterprise at a time of transaction
Correct.
or at any future date. Obviously that the margin which I used to give it to third party vendor, it has been reduced and now my future profit would be increased.
Correct.
So it's not a restructuring but it's a reorganization.
Okay. Can I give you a counter question? Think about it. So I understood your point. You were saying that no, I'll just answer. So if you think about it, you are increasing your profit by rethinking. Just think about it. Today you were doing an ad. You are promoting your product using me as your brand ambassador. Tomorrow you thought, I know that's not right. Tomorrow you thought you will take Sachin Tendulkar. Obviously your sales are going to increase. Will you say that this is a restructuring? No. just I'm trying to draw a parallel. It's a parallel that I'm trying to draw. Not every move by a company to increase its profits should be taken as business restructuring. Taxman will argue the way you have tried to argue. He can, but not every move will be taken as a restructuring. There should be something which is fundamentally resulting in a change of your overall operations. If there was an entity that was manufacturing in Japan and you move that to an India, that's a business restructuring that you are talking about. Because otherwise what will happen is every transaction that you are doing, every move that you are doing is going to have an impact on your P&L. Obviously, that's why you are doing it. You are in business. Then everything will be a business restructuring. So that is why it's the need of the hour, and that's why I was spending so much time in trying to decipher each and every word of that concept. That not everything can be reclassified as a business restructuring. Only those things which fundamentally change your internal business and internal processes will be characterized as restructuring. Yeah, please.
Manufacturing unit in Japan, China, coming to India.
Yeah.
But I don't know immediately. I put a new unit in India. Majorly shifted.
Yeah.
What will happen?
Same thing. So answer will remain same. It will be a business restructuring that you are doing. Because what you are doing is, your plan is today to do that over a 5-year period, but you still have that plan. Your plan is to close China plant eventually. So that's a restructuring. And that is the precise reason why they have put this definition saying that irrespective of the fact whether it has an impact on the profits immediately or any time in the future. So that's a precise point that they have used this definition.
Sir, are you trying to say that even the acts which are done in an organic manner will also be covered by business restructuring?
X.
Action.
Action.
Any actions on the front of restructuring, whether it is business or corporate. What I am trying to say is, are this word organic and inorganic way of doing it, are they not suggested to be the benchmarks for deciding whether it is corporate restructuring or not?
No.
So even if somebody already manufacturing something in China, that company comes here and starts manufacturing in India, that would be organic. I mean, unless it takes over some other company or unless it does it by through somebody else, will it still be called corporate restructuring?
So, that goes back to the point which someone made over here, that opening up a subsidiary, will that be a restructuring? The answer is, if I'm shutting down that plant and then bringing that plant into India. So let's say I was manufacturing in China. I decided to shut off Chinese plant because Indian profits are low cost or closer to market, whatever those reasons are. If I'm doing that, then it classifies as a restructuring, though it's an organic expansion. But since you're closing out something, it's a restructuring that we are talking about. But there is a difference if you continue the plant in China and if you then continue build up a new plant in India, that's not a restructuring, that's just merely an expansion. So there is a thin line of difference between the two. And the thin line is that if there is something which you are trying to close down and then bring it entirely into India, then it will be called as restructuring. If it is merely an expansion, it will not.
And which is that single definition which we can take up to get to this called conclusions. The theme line that you are trying to make out, does it come out of any single definition of business capabilities?
I think the best part we as CP professionals would like to rely here is the OECD definition, because that really brings out the real intention under a restructuring which typically happens, is that a group is trying to play around with the assets that it has. It could be the functional people that it has, it could be the intangibles that it has. It will like to shift those, play around with the assets that it has to generate more benefits for the group, and that's the real intention of any key restructuring assignment, where you are looking at garnering more value from the business. So that's the attack which is the real intention, and that's where we as tax professionals or TP professionals would want to connect more to a definition which is the OECD sense of it, and that's where we said that though the taxman definition is this, though the Black's law defines this, but there is no pure tax context to each of those definitions. But if you really look at the OECD definition, it really has more of the context in terms of The intention today of the taxman is to catch all profit shifting, erosion of tax base. That's the real intention we are talking about. And that's where the OECD definition really hits there on the point to say that is there a transfer of assets happening? Is there a transfer of function happening? Are you shifting risk and thereby shifting the profitability? If yes, then that's where I want to catch you, because that's where a risk and reward ratio will fail. And if risk is shifting and your reward is also not shifting, then there is some mismatch, which is what the tax authority want to catch. So that's really the biggest intention, and that's where we want to be closer to the OECD definition.
The basic test is there that the enterprise is a stupid enterprise. When I have plant in China, I have some other body as associate. When in India I open as another associate. The operating called structure, restructuring.
See, I think.
Yeah, I think let's probably take it to lunch. I
Okay,
give it to you
so
because it's only half an hour.
I'll take this up in lunch.
Yeah.
Let's go on this. Sorry, I think
Only slide.
I'll just take one last question before you go ahead. I think you had something.
No, I was just trying to encapsulate what you were just trying to tell, that if the company finds a new way of doing the same old thing that it is doing, either through operations, technology, people, or IP rights, then basically it would be restructuring.
No, that's not what I said. No. See, it's like this. You know, earlier you were working on Tally, now you have a SAP system. This is not a restructuring. Because, you know, just go back to my example of brand ambassador, me and versus Tendulkar. That cannot be a restructuring. Restructuring, essentially, if you combine all these definitions together, is there should be some fundamental shift in the processes, such as you are moving a plant from China to India, you are closing out on that plant, you are trying to gain efficiencies from the Indian operations. That's a restructuring. Not that every process and every change will be called a restructuring. That's not what I said. There has to be cross-border redeployment, because unless it is being done at a local level, there's no tax impact really. So if, let's say, I restructure my Indian operations, shifted from Maharashtra to Nagpur or Maharashtra to Gujarat, it's not a really restructuring. What restructuring we are talking about, because if I do this Maharashtra to Gujarat, still the taxes will be paid in India. What I'm talking about is cross-border redeployment, because that is where, you know, your tax base gets eroded. That's where I'm interested in this as a transfer pricing officer. Your local tax officer might still go and ask you some other questions, but as a transfer pricing officer or as a transferring professional, this is what we are interested in, cross-border redeployment.
So just one clarification.
Yeah.
I just see that as he gave an example that if instead of shutting your purchases and you open a manufacturing plant in some other country, so will that amount to a transfer in your function wherein earlier you were purchasing and now you are manufacturing? As in case of an example of brand ambassador, there is no change of function drastically. It's only the personal, it's only a business commercial decision that gets changed. Here your functioning gets changed. So, you know, is there a difference, and will, you know, this has to be taken into consideration in identifying whether
So-
it is a business reorganization?
So valid point. Let me answer that point very quickly. See, what we are talking about is the decisions or the restructuring which we are talking about is an internal restructuring. The decision to shut off purchases from a third party is for the third party. Okay? Then what I'm doing is I'm just expanding my business. Expansion of business does not tantamount to business restructuring, which is of interest to the taxman. You're just expanding your operations. Nobody is bothered. If you close down a plant and open a new plant, then the thing is that, you know, the tax officer in China will want to see that what is the tax loss that he's going to have because of this thing, and he would like to have the right amount of exit tax. That is the whole fundamental. Yeah. Okay. So coming back to this definition. So one of the things is how do you identify the business restructuring? We had enough discussion on that. Having identified, you need to report in the Form 3CB. Interestingly, the new Form 3CB which is there, you know, if you see all the clauses, it says that you have to disclose the arm's length value of other transactions. All those 13, 14 clauses that you have, 17 clauses rather. But for business restructuring, they have just said that, you tell us that what is the agreement which you have done and what is the business restructuring that you have done. They have not asked you to report the arm's length value. So that's a good and a bad thing, because arm's length value will be determined by the tax authority there. But that's the disclosure that you need to do. Very interesting point is that, this definition of international transaction, this amendment which has come up, that irrespective of the fact that it has a bearing on your income, profits, loss or assets, has a wide implication on some of the earlier rulings which have come on this topic. So, which are the rulings? They are Vandenberg, Dana, Amyantet. The fundamental point is, have these been overruled? Rajesh, you want to?
I think the biggest point that all of us in transfer pricing were debating whenever this definition came up is that not necessarily every business restructuring results in a tax impact. Why do I disclose that? Because transfer pricing, the way section 92 starts, is that any income arising out of an international transaction. Now, when there is no income arising, when there is no taxable income, does it really make sense in reporting, and does TP really apply here? And historically, if I have to look at all these rulings from the ARs that we had in terms of the Dana ruling, Amayanti, everyone in terms of fundamental came back to a point that if there is no taxable income, then transfer pricing as a section, which is the machinery provisions of the Act, does not really come into the picture. So then, can we take a view that this business restructuring is not resulting into a tax impact? Do I need to report it or not? Interestingly, after all of these rulings, there was a lot of silence in terms of any more knowledge on this. But there was a ruling in case of Castleton, which came much later on all of these aspects. And there was, sorry.
I think we still have some time. I know it's, we have some 25 minutes to go. Are all of you aware of what these rulings are? All? So, why don't we spend 2 minutes on telling you the fundamentals of what these rulings were, and I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritties of it, but at a macro level, what these rulings are trying to say. So, you take a ruling of Dana or Amyantet, whether you take a ruling of Dana or an Amyantet, they have tried to say that, in both these cases, there was a share transfer which was happening between overseas group companies of the shares of an Indian group were transferred between two non-residents, taxable as per TP. So they were saying that no consideration was there. So it was either given as a gift or it was transferred without a consideration. And AR said that since there is no consideration, if you go back to section 45, the charging section for capital gains, it says the capital gains have to be determined in accordance with 48, section 48. And section 48 says you have to have income less the expense is the value which you will use for your capital gains. So because there is no consideration, they came out with this principle that this mechanism of 48 fails, and since 48 is failing, 45 will fail, and there is no capital gains tax, and TP being just a machinery provisions will not apply. That was the ruling which was held in both Dana and Amyantet. Vandenberg was slightly on a different point. Vandenberg, what had happened was there was an overseas transfer, and that transfer was exempt from Indian taxation because of a treaty, India and the next treaty. So there they said that since it is anyway exempt from tax, TP will not apply. So as Rajesh rightly put, in all these principles, the principle which was coming out was no tax, no TP. However, Dana and Amyantet, to my mind, were, with due respect to the AR, they are wrong rulings, because the whole principle of TP is to have the right consideration. Just because you are not able to ascertain a consideration does not mean TP will not apply. But nevertheless, these were the principles, that no tax payable, no TP will apply. And the debate that we are trying to have now is that, having said this, that there is a 92 amended definition of 92B1. Does this rulings get overruled?
One question here, I think in Dana,
Yeah.
transfer was pursuant to a bankruptcy in the
Correct.
US. So
Correct.
that is an operation of law. It's
Doesn't
not
matter.
strictly speaking a transfer per se, I mean, by a voluntary act of the party.
See, I think so. To just to add, it was pursuant to bankruptcy. But pursuant to bankruptcy, what this group had decided that it will form a new company. There will be infusion by a PE, and then those shares will move out. Still, it's a transfer. See, because if you see, I am interested in whether that transaction is taxable or not. Whether by operation of law and the bankruptcy is US bankruptcy.
Yes, yes.
I don't really care. As an Indian tax authority, I really don't care. Is it taxable in India or not? That's the simple thing that I have to think of. So the AR never said that it is not taxable. The AR, because of business restructuring,
consideration is not ascertained.
Correct.
Correct.
That's the point.
There can you not apply DC Srinivas if your
They
monetary
applied.
provision fails?
They applied.
You
They
go.
applied. They applied. They applied a BC Srinivas Shetty. In both Dana and Amyati, they applied a BC Srinivas
And
Shetty.
that is good law to my mind even today.
Not.
Partly.
Because see, if you will read this business reorganization along with your clause in your free CED, it is a reporting provision, it is a procedural provision rather than a kind of effective substantive provision. You have to report.
Correct.
I mean, your obligation goes once you report.
No. I will rather.
Because arm's length, you don't have to determine as of now.
Sorry.
Okay.
I have I'm so sorry. I have a different view on that. Rather, you have to be even more careful, and that's why I said that. You have to be even more careful when you are not reporting an arm's length value, because then you are leaving it open for the tax authority to come up with a value. Just think about all these cases of Vodafone and Shell 3, where the share issues are happening. The taxpayer determined the value as per using some TCF or the CCI guidelines. The value was computed, he never bothered to report it, it was not required, etc. But instead of, so let's say, I think in case of Vodafone, the taxpayer came out with a value of 10 or 12,000. The tax authority came out with a value of 50,000 per share. So that's the ambiguity we will have. If you are not able to ascertain that what is that value or the arm's length value in a business structure, you are leaving it open to the tax authority. So it's like giving AK-47 in the hand of a drunken monkey. You have to so say. He can fire in any direction. So I'll be more skeptical and worried to report this transaction and leave it open for the taxpayer authority to come back and say that this is the arm's length value.
Even if you don't report, you have to pay the penalty number. And the
2%
TPO can still open your books
Oh yeah.
and see. So,
So penalty is where I feel we are going closer to an insurance agent. Every time we are threatening of penalty and we actually say that report everything and be safe. Coming back to this point on no tax, no TT, it's a heavily debated topic recently because of after the Castleton ruling really came and after the various amendments which came to overrule what BC Srinivas Shetty was actually saying in terms of the introduction of 50D and all those provisions. To say that now consideration is not determined, go ahead and determine based on fair market value. So the point which really said that, okay, does that mean Dana and those other rulings are overruled? Do we don't have to look at those principles? That's where in time Castleton ruling really came into the picture. And what Castleton really brought out to say that fair point, there is a situation, and Castleton was a situation where really the SSE was claiming a treaty benefit, which was very close to an approach which was in the case of Vandenberg, which was there. So when you are claiming a treaty benefit and there is a no tax situation which is arising because of the treaty benefit, do you really want to report such a transaction or no? Because as per 90A we know, we will report whatever is favorable to the SSE. The point which was made by the AR at that point in time was that fair, that's a position which is being taken by the SSE, and the tax authority should be given a chance to at least verify the position which the SSE is taking is correct or not. Now keeping in few more points in consideration here is that whether residency test is met or not, whether TRC is required, is that TRC available to you, is the treaty benefit really available to you, are you looking at the right characterization as per the treaty. Those are the questions where the taxpayer had really taken position, and those are not something which is a clear flow from the Act to say that okay, the Act clearly says this is an exempt income, so there is no further debate about that income. So keeping in perspective what really is happening around, the authority for advance ruling really said that fair point, you can go ahead and say that this is not taxable, but you will still have the onus of doing a Form 3CB filing. You have to report this transaction, file the 3CB and do the compliance for that. So that's the new thought process which is there. To an extent that sounds fair, and that's really which comes out from this